In a world of quick fixes, the Longevity Blueprint podcast is a source of lasting wisdom and a wealth of longevity and health information. Here, the journey to longevity is a way of life, bridging the human spirit with the divine. Your host, Gil Hodges, a visionary and author of the book Choice, and the powerful life-changing mentorship group, The Inner Circle, engages with leaders and teachers from around the world to share their profound and unique understandings to the mind, body, and spirit connection. Each episode looks at the possibilities and potential blending of cutting-edge science with perhaps some ancient spiritual insights, offering a holistic approach to health that transcends physical well-being. Gil, along with his guests, will dive into life's mysteries, promoting personal growth and spiritual alignment. Tune into the Longevity Blueprint for a transformative experience, and join a community where every step is a leap towards a healthier, more harmonious existence. Now, join your host, Gil Hodges, for an enlightening conversation.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Kingdom Talks, Gil Hodges Podcast, and the wrong intro. We'll have to label those better, but we'll get it. So now we're going to talk about longevity and how to extend your lifespan and so forth. And I think that'll be a good topic for our guest tonight. I've got Darren Stott on with me, and I've had one Zoom call with him. We hit it off. It was really good, a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to having him on tonight. Before we get started, I want to go over a couple things. Join our choicecommunity.org and the Choice Community Facebook group. I encourage you to get over there and get involved. There's a lot of great things going on. We've got the Inner Circle that has just been blowing up, and a lot of fun, good stuff. So make your way over there as soon as you can. And then also tomorrow, the price goes to full price for the conference in South Carolina. It's going to be $9.95 tomorrow, $7.95 right now if you get in on the early bird. So just be aware of that, and hope to see you there. Looking forward to 4 days of immersion in some really, really deep meditative stuff that's something you can take home with you and continue to grow in after the conference. Also, if you have not been keeping track, the new school year in Uganda, Mokano, is starting up actually this coming Monday. So really encourage you to go to our website, kingdomequippingcenter.com. Take a look, scroll down the first page, and about halfway down, you're going to find a whole section on Africa. And if anything you want to find out, go to that page and consider making a donation there. One of the big things that they really are going for, and what we're looking to help them with in 2024, is they need a bus, and it's about $15,000. Once they have that bus, they will be able to become self-sustaining probably within 2024. And that's what we're looking for, is for them to be able to reach that point where they are self-sustaining. That bus is going to help them pick up students from other communities where they are actually able to afford the school that they are building there. So, and your sponsorship of the children also helps those get in that normally wouldn't be able to afford it. So thank you all so much for your help on that. And then last of all, the book Choice is out. You can find it on Amazon, as well as my other book, Living for Ultimate Impact. Encourage you to go take a look at those and consider buying them. Choice is available on Audible as well. So, all right. Well, blessings, everyone. I'm glad you're here. And hit the like button, hit the share button, get the word out, because we've got Darren Stott on. Let's go ahead and bring him on now. Hey, Darren.
Oh, Gil. All right. Longevity. We're going to live forever, and I'm going to give the 3 ways to do it. So this is going to be fun.
The 3 ways. All right. Let's do it. Well,
I hope you're ready to not die, because that's where we're going right here, right now.
Well, hey, I want you to share a little bit, because I got a few people that probably don't necessarily know exactly who you are. So why don't you give everybody an update?
It's kind of weird because I'm kind of a big deal. So we are located here in Seattle, Washington, USA. Pastor at a church called Eden, formerly Seattle Revival Center. My grandpa was a pastor here. My dad was a pastor. I said I would never be a pastor. Got hurt in the church, got super broken. That brokenness turned to bitterness. Hated Christians, hated the church, hated pastors, definitely hated pastors' kids. Thought I would be a filmmaker, actually. And then the Lord slowly started to restore me, started to restore my identity, give me a revelation of where I was going. And sure enough, I found myself back at the very place that I swore I would never go back to. And this next year, Easter, will be 15 years of pastoring here at this church.
Wow.
And I'll just say I'm living the dream. I mean, it's not that it's not hard and whatever else, but there's such a grace to do this. I got the most amazing team, the most incredible people. And so that's like a big, complicated, weird story, kind of summed up in a nutshell. I don't see myself as a pastor. I sometimes think the only thing that limits us is what we call ourselves. And so I most of my team, they don't call me Pastor Darren. And I just don't really see myself that way. I don't think that's my call. I think that's my assignment. My calling is to catalyze joy, and I do that through a lot of assignments. So pastoring is an assignment, but through pastoring, I catalyze joy. I've got a late night talk show that I do on Sid Roth's network called Making Light of It, and we catalyze joy. I have my own ministry called Supernaturalist Ministries, and we're reaching bummed out, frustrated, jacked up people and catalyzing joy. So that's my whole thing, man. Joy to the world. The Lord has come. Let earth receive her king.
That's quite a roundup. So what's your favorite out of all of those that you're doing? And maybe that's a bad question, but
certainly not anyway. Pastoring. No. That's a great question. I loved doing that. That whole thing with the Making Light of It show. We did 14 episodes. That was, we could talk about that if you want, but that was so challenging. I mean, when we did it, it was not my favorite thing in the world. It's interesting when you're looking at divine opportunity, right? Or if you're looking at what I would refer to as a portal opening in your life. I see that as a threshold that God creates where we choose to step over that threshold. The amount of resistance that exists there to cross over, it's self-resistance because of our own insecurity, imposter syndrome. It's also, there's a certain level of demonic resistance because of the impact we'll make for the kingdom, right? Yeah. And so the enemy or the enemy, I don't know. It's all of the above. And I felt that with Making Light of It. And I think that people listening, they're about to cross over into something new. They're part of your choice community. They're engaging their will, bringing it into alignment with the will of Yahweh. And a lot of people just think, in our supernatural stream, people just think that if it's a miracle, it's easy. And I think that the miracle is the access point into your destiny, but the amount of resistance to get us to be just predictable, generic, like everybody else, is extraordinary. So I like pastoring. I do. I like it because it allows, because I've been doing it for such a long time that there's a tremendous amount of resistance, and yet it's the area of probably least resistance, if that makes sense. But every so often I have to contend to go over into something else. And that's what keeps pastoring fresh. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's looking for the meaning in life. And so I think for me, the pastoring does that. But then now it's like, I'm doing so many other things, having written the book and doing these groups around the book, just the impact. Maybe that's another thing, is just looking at the impact that I get to have, and
that's being a good word.
Astounded, by it at times. It's like, holy cow, wow. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road right now, but
we're creating some great rabbit holes or portals right now. I mean, there's so many,
Well, so I a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they would be, considered people from the mystic community. And I really do, if you're willing, and we can keep light of it. I mean, in fact, sure. Somebody I miss really, really, really a lot. I don't know if you ever met him or not, but Christopher Carter. Because he and I would get on here and we would have the best of times. We just connected so well. But so yeah, we can make light of the whole time as we're going through this. But I'll just say my part. That way, maybe it'll open it up for you a little bit. Because we dove deep into the mystic side of it. But there did come a point where it's like, hold on, wait a minute. It's like we're chasing after all these shiny things. And I just felt the Father began to speak to me anyway, personally, to like dial it back, because all those shiny things are good and fine and fun, but we're missing the point of building the foundation, which is love.
Wow.
And not very many people want to spend the time to work on that foundation. They just want to build things or play and not really do the basics, the work that is going to get us to that place where we can actually grab onto those shiny, fun things forever, and actually work with them and have it be consistent and all the time, versus, here a little, there a little, every once in a while a miracle happens. No, your whole life is a miracle. Anyway, so I know you were somewhat in that movement, or you are, but I don't know what you want to share in that arena.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. First of all, with my dad being a pastor, he was a very traditional Assembly of God, British, like our family's English originally. And you could see that in my dad's stoic kind of behaviors. Got super burnt out, got touched at the move of God in Toronto in 94. The result of that was that being drunk in the spirit became his default status. I mean, he lived drunk. I don't know if you know John Scotland.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad and John were like the revival mavericks of the 90s. They got kicked out of churches together. If John got kicked out of a place, my dad would go with him. There was like this loyalty there, this like bond thing there. My dad walked, and I can tell you stories. We probably won't, but my dad walked in a mystic glory. Now, my dad never used the term mystic or mysticism. However, he would experience earthquakes as a normal. They were so real. He would scream and he'd ask everybody if they felt them. So I'm talking where he would literally see with his eyes open the ground buckling and moving. That's actually a common manifestation. That's where actually the Quakers came from, because they would experience actual earthquakes and they would quake. The Shakers, same thing. That wasn't a quaking thing. That was just more of a vibrating thing in the presence of the Lord. He would see the glory of God with his eyes open. Usually what that would look like are flashes of light, or sometimes lightning streaks. And they would form maps on the walls of his hotel room. And that's where he would find out where he's going in the nations. So he would go to some very remote places in Indonesia with unannounced. When you're talking, where we were going these little boats up these little streams, and they would be waiting for him because the angels told them that he was coming, and they would have, and so that was a realm that my dad really walked in. My grandpa was a similar thing. When he got saved, his coworker, my grandpa was like, he was kind of the party guy. He was just, he was a brawler. He was a pub crawler. He was a country western singer, and he'd perform at these bars and whatnot. When he got saved, people were so bummed out that he was a Christian that at work they would hide his tools. And so he would pray and ask God where his tools were, and God would give him visions of where his tools were. And that's how he developed his word of knowledge ministry, was through that. And so, so I was sort of raised in this weird environment without having terms. Like, it is funny too. So Justin Abraham, John Crowder, all these guys, Dave Vaughn, they were all running during the 90s. And I don't know if you remember Dave Vaughn, but do you know who Dave Vaughn is?
I don't know Dave Vaughn. I know the other names you mentioned, but not.
Or Slosh Fest, or any of. I'll tell it.
No, in the 90s, I was in my conservative denomination pastoring and wondering why all of you people were out there and not in my church. That's where I was at.
Dave Vaughn's Dave Vaughn did the Slosh Fest with Justin Abraham and John Crowder. But then after that all kind of waned a bit and went different directions. Dave Vaughn was on Big Brother UK and was known as the Drunken Monk, and did the Big Brother reality TV series, which was huge in the UK. Did the whole entire, he went to the very final round. He was almost the winner of the entire show. He did the entire TV show dressed up like a monk and drunk in the glory. And it just him and I were together in Indonesia when I got called into ministry, and he got whacked for the very first time. Angels actually pinned him down and tickled him during an entire church service. We left him there because he couldn't get off the ground. Angels were laughing with him, speaking to him in angelic tongues. And then some of them he could hear. They said, "We want to play with you, Dave. We want to play with you." And they were so mysticism. I'm all over the map right now. But yeah, so then all of a sudden, Justin and John Crowder and the New Mystics book that John did, and then Justin got teamed up with Ian, and then all of a sudden I found out about Justin. I told my dad about what Justin was stepping into. My dad was laughing. He was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even let that guy preach at one of my meetings." I was like, "Dad, you better be nice to Justin. He's like a big deal right now." And then Bob Jones was supposed to preach at our conference, and then Bob passed away. And then Justin replaced. Does that mean doing that?
I have no idea.
Speaking of, dude,
you got angels, tech angels doing something.
Did anybody else see that? Earthquake.
I've never seen that before, Darren. So
that's some heavy glory. So Bob was supposed to do our conference. Bob passed. I felt the Lord wanted me to reach out to Justin. We hadn't even met each other. Justin did Bob's session. He wore a sweatshirt that belonged to Bob Jones that Larry Randolph gave to him. And he did this message on bilocation, and that Bob's ceiling should be our floor. And anyways, that was like the beginning of a relationship between Justin and I. So anyways, Justin introduced me to Millie. Millie Bennett showed up at our conference. I didn't even know she was coming. I saw, and dude, just, you know how it is, right? So yeah, so we got this history in these relationships, and then there's also just my kind of my journey that I've been on as well, as because we all have, in Justin's terms, we all have our own scroll, and all of our ministries have their own blueprint. And so I've been faithful to that. It's been interesting to watch the mystic river become kind of mystic streams, if you will. But that's normal sometimes. And so so it's cool, man.
Yeah. I get it. I just want to say really quickly to all the listeners and users, hey, share this with 4 or 5 people. Get the word out. I think we're going to have a lot more fun. We're going to dive into something. I have no idea what it's going to.
We're going to talk about life longevity. Live forever. I mean, everybody.
That's what we got to refer back to. Somehow we got to refer everything back to longevity and
immortality.
Laughter will help you live longer. So that's a good one. So I don't know why I'm curious about your comedy routines. I'm like that. I want to know more.
All right, dude. All right.
And then I'll let you talk about what you want to talk about after you tell me about your comedy routines.
Come on. So when I was a kid, I had this dream, and in the dream there was this guy, and he was the funniest guy I'd ever met. I was just laughing uncontrollably. Like, I'm a little kid. I'm thinking it's probably like 5 years old, 6 years old, somewhere in there. And when I wake up from the dream, I have tears coming out of my eyes. It's like the most wonderful. I don't know what holy laughter is. I don't know any of that. All I know is that something was funny. This guy was funny. And I just woke up from the dream. I'm crying and I'm laughing. And it's just so amazing. And the man in that dream was Jesus, right? So many years later, I'm an adult, and the Lord takes me back to that. And he shows me that in that dream, I received an impartation of joy. And that'd be the kind of joy that would sustain me. That joy would be the fuel that I would need to accomplish his calling in my life. And joy for me is not a performance. When stuff gets hectic, when it gets crazy, stressful, where I've just, joy is that like safe place for me. It's how I process. Even when I hire people now that are going to be working closely with me, I'll say, listen, there's some things that are very important to me. Honor is very important to me. Honesty is very important to me. So don't be dishonest because you think that's honor, right? I'm not going to tell you the truth because I honor you, right? So I need honor, I need honesty, and we'll hold the tension there, right? But the third H is humor. And I was like, you need to know that I'm not trying to dishonor you, or I'm not trying to make light of it, right? Or am I, right? And I think that is that humor to me, like even a lot of my messages, I'll preach on some real difficult things, but we'll laugh through it. And it really is true. It says, I think in Second Hesitations, chapter 6, it says, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. And I think that there's just, if we can get people laughing, if we don't take ourselves so seriously, like we can bring a lot of truth, and people will be like, yeah, you're right. And so that's, people, I would like to think that people in our Eden culture think that I'm funny, but you never really know, right? Because we have our things and people honor us. And so we say something and they laugh. And you're always kind of like, am I actually funny, right? And I was like, I want to go somewhere where people don't honor me. I want to go somewhere where people don't know me. And I want to see if I'm actually funny or if people are just, doing courtesy. I went downtown Seattle to our comedy club here, and they do an open mic night. And I tried to work on a bit, and I got 2 minutes, and it was the most stressful thing that I've ever done. And I had to get there early. I got there 2 or 3 hours early. I had to stand in line in that alley there in Pioneer Square, and all these comedians are lined up, and everybody just looks scared to death. There's a couple guys that they're regulars and they're okay, but I will say there was this really cool sense of community. And we go into this thing, and I'm at the end of the night, and I'm listening to all these comedians, so these amateur comedians, and I'm realizing this isn't a comedy show. This is a therapy session. And all these comedians are using humor as a way to process through their pain. And all of a sudden I realized, this isn't a comedy club. This is a temple. And this is their worship. It's not being directed to Yahweh. You could say it might be a temple of misguided worship, but we're all worshipers. We're all going to worship something. And so they have connection, they have honesty, there's empathy. When people are laughing with you, it's like a form of honor, and they feel this sense of connection. And I was sitting there just like, there's something really precious, while at the same time it'd be difficult for any Christian because it's also so profane. I mean, it's precious and profane. And how do you hold the tension there? I mean, so finally I go up and I do my thing, and it's the scariest, Gil, it's the scariest thing I've ever done, man. I speak 3 times every week. Sometimes I do classes, sometimes up to 5 times in one day. Been doing this for 15 years, spoken at conferences, right? Russia, we just got back from Russia, over 3,000 people. I'm not nervous at all. I get up in front of 3,000 people. I'm not nervous at all. Here I'm in a club with 100 people, and I am absolutely terrified. And I do my bit, and I will say this: I knew that no matter how it went, I wanted to end well, and I wanted to end strong. I wanted to end with a mic drop, because most of these guys didn't know how to end their bit. So I was like, I'm going to experiment with some stuff. It might be funny, it might not, but I'm going to land it hard. So that's mostly what I worked on, was my landing. All right, I did the routine. I thought I epically failed. I thought it was miserable. I landed it hard though. It was a mic drop moment the way that I landed it. The next woman gets up, and she's like, "Who was that? Tony F. and Robbins?" And everybody just started cracking up laughing. And I kind of took that as a bit of a compliment. I was like, well, cool. I made a real impact there at the end. And it was regarding parenting, and the one thing our children want is the one thing we can't afford to give them, and that's our time. And that was like my last, because I was doing all this whole bit on spanking and discipline, this whole thing. People are kind of, I thought I failed. I took my buddy with me. He recorded it and he sent it to me. And I was so glad that he did, because believe it or not, there was 1 or 2 times that people actually laughed. And I have no record of that. When I got off, I felt like such a failure. And the reason I tell that whole entire story is I learned something so important. And that's, when you have fear, you're not funny.
Yeah.
And
yeah. All right, Karen, are you doing that? She says no.
This is a weird, this podcast is, I feel like a bit of a clown right now, but yes. And that was actually quite a revelation to me, that when you're full of fear, you can't function the way that God created you. And you realize how much fear robs from you. Dude, I was obsessed. I got my notepad out. I'm like, I'm going back. We're going to do this. I'm going to be a comedian. And my wife says, yeah, no, you're not. You've got 4 kids, a church, all this. She's like, I ain't losing you to some, anyways. And it's a good thing that she did that. But that's a little bit of a story around, comedy, et cetera,
Oh, that's cool. It's one of those things where I've through different stages of my life, I thought, it'd be fun to do that. Just give it a try. And I think it would be fun, but I could also see getting up there and being terrified, in the sense that I got to make these people laugh. Now in church, you probably do it at church. You probably get everybody to laugh. And I used to do it when I was in a conservative Seventh-day Adventist church. I would always, not always, but I would oftentimes throw some humor in there, and it was always fun. So.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's like, it's one of those things that's never planned for me. Like, I don't write jokes going into a message or something, but I just find so many stupid things funny, right? It's probably like you. Yeah. And so it's like when we're going, and that's where I had to start to watch it and hold myself accountable, because I'd go back and listen to a message every so often. And I was like, that was a powerful point. The moment I made light of that point, it took the batteries out of what was just said. And I also realized that's one of the ways that humor can be dishonoring. If you say something and there was power in it, and I found it something really funny, and I follow up what you said with something that's funny, and the whole room laughs, even though they're not laughing at you, they're laughing at what I said, I robbed the room of the heavy that you just, I had to really hold myself accountable as to where it's appropriate, when it's not, and realize that I don't want to be like shooting down the things that we've been building. So,
right. Yeah. Humor at the expense of something else. That's never really good. And honestly, growing up, that's the humor that I focused on. And then kind of my transition into, Christianity, becoming a pastor and all that, just realizing some different levels and different points is like, that's not cool. Not cool to use humor at someone else's or something else's expense. And it really, really did bring an awareness to me that I needed to kind of calm it down. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're only going to be gone about 45 seconds, everybody. So use this opportunity to watch what we're going to share and share it with a few other people, get the word out. And then when we come back, Darren, I want you to just go ahead and share what is on your heart, what you would like to talk about. And we'll spend the last half of the show doing that. All right, so we'll be back right after this.
Hey there. Thank you for joining Kingdom Talks. We are taking a short break to share with you the life-changing online course called Ultimate Impact. Gil and Adina do an amazing job taking the complicated and making it simple and applicable for your life. Ecclesia groups are using this course to shift their thinking into the next age paradigm. Yeshua spoke of power, authority, love, and oneness that we have yet to walk in. So if you're ready to deconstruct limiting beliefs in order to step into what Father is doing now, this course is for you. Sign up today at kingdomtalksmedia.com under the Courses tab. Now, back to the show.
All right, hey, we're back, and just want to let you know that the Ultimate Impact course, we just started one group, and we have another group starting February 22nd. So get on over to kingdomequippingcenter.com and get signed up for that. Encourage you, because we only have usually 1 or 2 groups starting up every 3 to 4 months. So grab this opportunity. Okay, so Darren, what is on your heart? What do you really want to talk about? What's meaningful?
Well, I was really enjoying that first half was really great. I just couldn't believe that we're halfway through the show now, and we.
I know.
But I really liked that particular conversation. We in Seattle, I told you that we were Seattle Revival Center. We went through this huge kind of transition into Eden, right? And so I think last time you and I chatted, it was around this whole idea of Eden and some of the transitions and things that are taking place on the earth. I do think that the way that this conversation started today was important and timely and God ordered, in that there is an intensity in 2024. I'm not prophesying. I'm not, I really sense that the word this year is intensity. I'm not saying that. This is just, which would be probably accurate.
With some things we know that are coming. Yeah, exactly.
I got the gift to state the obvious, but it's a political year. It's an election year. We are these 3-part beings: soul, body, spirit. We have difficulty discerning what is what. And we live in these atmospheres, dynamics, and these families, whether or not, I crack up when people are like, I quit watching the news, and it's like,
I did.
No, did you? Okay, I'm not laughing at you, Gil. I mean, but
Yeah.
But it's almost like if I stop watching the news, I'm not going to be impacted by this frequency that's in the culture, and that certainly isn't the case, because if everybody at your work is watching the news, guess what? That frequency is inside of them. And we get impacted by other people's radiation, and I think this is happening in the church quite a bit. So I think that there's something about the simplicity of the kingdom, and that a third of the kingdom is joy, and just the significance and the strategic nature of how we started this conversation is that if there's anything that is robbing our joy this year, we need to see that it's actually a temptation to step out from the atmosphere of heaven and to step into another atmosphere that we think, living in a triggered state, is going to produce transformation on the earth. But it's not. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus said, but I have come that you would have life, and life abundantly. And so if you step out of the kingdom, which is, righteousness and peace and joy, and you step into this triggered state thinking that your angst is going to bring transformation, you'll actually find that the enemy has deceived you, and you'll be and your angst will actually be stealing from you and robbing from you. And so
no, they're very, very good. And a couple things. I've been meaning to say this the whole time. I didn't know this until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. This Jewish guy in the mall, he was selling stuff at the kiosk, and I'm walking by, and he's trying to sell me. He said, What's your name? What's your name? And I said, Gil. And he goes, oh, that's a popular name in Israel. And I'm like, really? I've never heard that before. And he goes on to tell me that Gil in Israel is a common name, and it means joy.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh, now that's pretty cool. So, and I won't go into some other things, but just to keep it short.
It is awesome.
In the heavens, I see myself as a king of joy, not the king, but a king of joy. Wow. Because at my core, now a lot of people know me as very serious and a very spiritual, environment. And I love that. I love that impact that I can have, because I know I can have it. It makes a difference in people's lives. But the other side of me is just a goofball. And I love just having a good time. And I don't get to do that very often anymore. But it might come back. I'm sure God's going to create an opportunity somewhere. But the whole thing you're saying, and what I'm teaching in the inner circle is just that whole thing of I'm actually looking for the people that feel like they're completely successful, but they're unfulfilled. And usually they're unfulfilled because they still haven't tapped into that love, joy, and peace.
Wow.
And love, joy, and peace is something that honestly we have to go through a little bit of a process to untether from this world and what it's taught us and how it's programmed us. And in order to step in and make the choices to choose love, joy, and peace. And it sounds really simple, but the fact is we are so programmed that as I share some of the things, that people are programmed with, it's like the light goes on, the head goes sideways, and like, what? Because it's just so foreign when we begin sharing some of the things that even the church has taught us. And it's basically to be of the world instead of in the world. Teaches us to be of the world. And when we got those tethers connected to us, really makes it challenging to find that love, joy, and peace, because you got so many other obstacles in the way. It's like the war in Israel and the war in the Ukraine. And it's like, I honestly don't watch the news anymore. I haven't watched it for years. In fact, I mean, if anything's really important, it usually gets to my ears anyway. Like you said, other people are carrying it. But at the same time, I'm just like, do I want to hold on to that? No, I'm going to let that go. Unless Father tells me I need to do something about it, then I'm going to let it go, because he's got his people in his places that are meant to take care of those things. I need to take care of what's in my sphere of influence currently. So anyway,
man, that is so good. And I think that the danger of checking your joy dipstick and making that the focus, and then maybe comparing yourself to Gil or to Darren and saying, I must not be in the kingdom because I don't have that amount of joy, or I better seek after joy because that's a part. So I think that we can talk about something like this, and all of a sudden it can become the target, right? And I think that Jeremiah, I was looking this up when you're talking. I was listening, honestly. But
yeah, right. No.
Jeremiah, it was all good. Jeremiah 17:7-8 says, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord. He is like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. And when he does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of the drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. That word blessed there can be translated as happy. Happy is the man who trusts in the Lord. What I like about that is it immediately says, if you check your joy dipstick and it's not where it should be, turn your focus in towards the Lord and allow him to be the source. And just, and people that are watching this, they can just say, Jesus, you are my joy. And I don't care how I feel, I'll operate from that place of faith, knowing that those feelings will follow. And I think the other thing about that is, what I love about that text is that it's not contingent on droughts or rainfall, right? I love that text because it's like, no matter the conditions, no matter the earthly conditions, because my trust is in the Lord, my roots go down deep into those underground reservoirs. And I think that this is a word for the people of God this year. We don't know, we don't have certainty, right? We don't have this is the absolute outcome. We don't have. And those who say that they do are going to be very popular because certainty sells. But I can't sell you certainty because I don't have that. So, but what I can do is I can call you to the Lord, and then no matter the outcome, you can have joy, and you can have fruit and fruitfulness and have the kingdom. And that will make you an incredibly valuable person this year.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because I would much rather sell uncertainty, because uncertainty is the place of faith. Because if it's all certain, then you don't need hope, you don't need faith. You just you're in control. And that even goes down another rabbit trail, being in control. It's like, why do you feel like you have to have control? Well, trace it back and you're going to find there's fear. And it's not love and joy and peace, it's fear, and you're wanting to control everything. And anyway, a lot of different things going on. And I love refocusing people back into love, joy, and peace. And and then also just bringing up scriptures. It's like, wait a minute, do you really believe that greater is he who's in you than he who's in the world? Really? Because you're not acting like it. No, I don't say that, but it's true. It's like most people, they certainly aren't acting like that they believe that text, or the Luke 10:19 that Jesus said, I'm going to give you all power and authority over the enemy. Well,
yeah,
where are you at with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing is, if you look at a healthy family, there's going to be joy there. It's not that you don't have the absence of conflict, because any healthy family, you're going to have some healthy conflict there. But for the most part, there's going to be a real sense of joy and well-being and appreciation to be in each other's presence. And I think that is one of our hopes with Eden, is to change or to transition from our community being focused around events. So like from an event mentality into a family mentality. And I think that's kind of a big thing that people are longing for, especially the younger generation. I think this Gen Z generation, they've been raised in such a digital environment. They've been raised on iPads. I mean, my 4-year-old knows the password to my phone. Yeah, wow. She locks it and watches lesbian propaganda on Netflix. And I'm like, turn off that Cocomelon. But when they come to church, I think that there was something kind of alluring to Gen X and even the baby boomer generation about seeing the digital wave come into the church, to the degree to where a lot of church services became very digital and very, quite technologically sensational. To the degree that, when our haze machine breaks, the Holy Spirit isn't going to show up that Sunday. And I think that there is kind of more of the analog, more of like the this next generation, like checking the pulse on that family dynamic and comparing that to the book of Acts, and where they gathered together daily, and I think that, we miss, not you and I, Gil, because we don't miss stuff, but I think that I think everybody else in the church kind of missed it during COVID, when they were when COVID taught us, we don't need to be together. We can do media church, and COVID taught us we can just do it on the web, and our budgets won't drop. I don't think that's what Jesus was trying to teach us through COVID. I don't think he was, I don't think that's what he was trying to teach us. And I think that we're these kind of environments that are just truly digital and truly, where that's the full expression of it. I think they have expiration dates on them. And I think that their ability, I don't think that, I can't get pregnant with my wife on Skype. I think that these environments, they terminate on whoever's at the top. They don't reproduce like they did in the book of Acts. Yeah. And I think that in the sense of family, that our children come of age and they reproduce, and there's this event thing, I think, has you know, in Seattle, there's so many good events. There's so many kingdom events. You're like, yeah, we popped it, you know, and we had 80, 100 people, and you know, my favorite is let's everybody at the altar, we're going to scream on the top of our lungs for 30 seconds. And then we get that on video and we share that on Instagram. We're in revival. You know, you got all these young people just like losing their minds. You know, just absolutely. And, you know, but then it comes to an end because the 30 seconds comes to an end. The cameras are turned off by then, and everybody's just saying like, what's different?
Yeah.
What do we do now? And it's like, there's this whole thing of going from events to going to family. We break bread together. We actually confess sin to each other. We actually say, I'm really frustrated right now. I don't have the answers. This is what's going on. And you got somebody sitting across the table saying, hey, you know, and they start to give you, you know, that's what I desperately want. I know that's what you and so many other people like are actually already doing. And this is a big thing that I think is so important. This is kind of my thing, you know, I wanted to get on and talk with you about is, yes, joy, but joy will just come from healthy family. And let's figure out if the communities we're a part of, we're just kind of triggering each other and figuring out how we're going to rage against the machine, or can we really have conversation about bringing this hope of glory to so many people that have no hope, think about this. There are people out there, not here, not watching. There are people actually out there that we are connected with that literally have no joy, and that do not want to live. And yet we have Christ Jesus, the hope of glory, residing inside of us. And we have so much opportunity right now. It's so beautiful and amazing. And just this invitation to begin to discern what is healthy, what is good, what does togetherness look like, what is confession, honesty, the word of God look like, you know?
Yeah, the whole relationship thing, I think, who knows where everything's going to go. I won't say a firm believer, but I am a believer that AI is coming. AI it's here to stay, and it's going to grow.
It's the Antichrist, right? Did you hear that?
Well, you know, here's the thing. It's like
religion.
I keep telling everybody, it's like Jesus came the first time, and the religious leaders totally missed it. Totally missed it. I'm not saying AI is God at all, but I'm saying that why couldn't God use AI as the means to free us up from all of our doing so that we can learn to just be and build relationships?
Careful, Gil. Careful, brother.
It's one of those things. I hold it very loosely because I'm like, I can believe for that. I have room for that. But at the same time, if Father says, or I see it's going sideways, I'm like, okay, I'm getting out. But until then, I'm not going to fear it, and I'm not going to make it the devil and all that. But I know a lot of other people think differently. So,
bro, I hear Musk is playing us hard. Dude, man, be playing us hard, pretending to be conservative, so that we'll put his mark of the beast inside our brains, and then he's got us, you know. And yeah. So I think it's fine. I mean, if I believe that, you know, which I don't, and I'm not on the waiting list to get something put in my brain. But if I believe that AI was the mark of the beast, like I would be literally smashing my cell phone with a sledgehammer, and I would be getting rid of it because it's integrating into everything, right? So I would be moving for the hills, you know,
and living off the land, off the grid.
Totally, because otherwise. Nobody wants to partner. I don't want to partner with the Antichrist. I don't, even if, so.
I mean, I hold everything loosely, seriously. Even
what are we talking about right now?
Stuff. Thanks, buddy. And Arun's been on here. It's just coming up as Facebook user, but Arun's on here.
Arun.
Man.
I've had so much fun with him. We've had a lot of fun together. He's
so cool. I actually was just talking to him the other day saying we got to get another show lined up and catch up because I haven't talked to him since I'm growing a little hair here, which my wife does not like it. And I said, honey, I've given you 31 years without this. I think I'm going to go a little while with it and then probably take it down again.
Bro, just do the soul patch thing here. Dude, it's like that. Grow it way out. Right.
Well, and honestly, this is the funny part for me, because, I had to start asking myself the last 3 days as I was starting to grow it out. I'm like, why am I doing this? Really, why am I doing this? And I really was trying to be honest. And one reason, okay, if I want to go for the vanity, the only reason for the vanity was I'm curious if it'll cover some of these wrinkles or not. I don't think it's going to work. But the other thing was I'm really just I'm just curious. I like change. And so
Yeah.
it's like, I'm just curious. I want to see what happens. I mean, my hair is longer than it's been since I was in grade school. So I'm just like, I'm bored. I'm doing something different, whatever.
It's great. It's perfect. Keep rocking it.
But anyway, back on the AI stuff, I really feel like it's number one, something not to be feared. And if you're fearing it, I mean, the crazy part is it's like I see people clamping down. Now, I do have two-factor authentication, because I mean, I've been hacked bad, really, really bad, where they got into my bank accounts, they got into my Google accounts, they got everything. So I'm definitely into the authentication and security, but at the same time, I'm not into all these restrictions, because the fact is, if you want to be off the grid, you need to be 100% off the grid, because if you're on the grid much at all, they got everything that they really want, so it's like, for me, it's all or nothing. It's, either get off or enjoy the conveniences that are there. And that's where I'm at. It's like, I'm going to enjoy the conveniences. If it turns out to be something that looks really bad, all right, I'll exit. But until then, I'm going to take advantage of these things that are making my life much easier. I mean, ChatGPT, I feel like I've got 2 or 3 assistants working for me now that I never had.
Come on, somebody. Yeah, I think that a lot of these things are distractions, and we really got, and there's, if just when you're driving, there's nothing worse than a distracted driver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we in the church, if you will, we have a lot of distracted drivers. And I think that you can tell by your outcomes, or by your goals, your lack of goals, your strategy. Probably the majority of Christians have no actual strategy regarding their destiny, or identity, for that matter. And therefore, because we don't know who we are, we trade into other people who know who they are, and so we don't believe in ourselves, so we sow into those who do. And I would really encourage people that God, for whatever reason, created you, and that's a pretty big deal. You're a pretty big deal. There's something that only you can bring to the earth, and man, we just can't afford. The earth can't afford to have you as a distracted driver. And so a lot of these conversations are taking us off track, and we really need to look at, there's the kind of love that you can give in a way that only you can give it. And that can transform the earth in such a precious way. There's such a joy, there's such a peace. There's the kind of justice, the kind of reweaving of shalom that you can do. There's things that you see that only you see. So many times the people are outraged because nobody's going to do something about something, but they're the only one that sees it, as God has opened their heart to become aware of something, because he has put inside of them the solution to be able to meet that need. Imagine if every person totally radically believed that they were actually created by God in the image of God, to be fruitful, to multiply, and to subdue the earth in some sort of unique way. If we all believe that, the governments of this world, I mean, our own government, wouldn't have to be involved in the welfare of man. Our prisons would be empty. I mean, so yeah.
I mean, that is so key. And honestly, if I had an overall arching mission, it's to bring people to the realization that they're loved,
Wow,
they're cared for, and they belong.
Wow.
And that's what we're, again, it's what we're doing in the inner circle. And the other questions that come up that for humanity that I really feel like, we can answer. Everybody's got to choose whether or not they want to believe it or not. But I feel very strongly, because of who I am now and what I know, that I know who I am. Now I'm growing in that all the time. I also know why I'm here. I'm growing in that all the time. And I also know where I'm going. I'm growing in that all the time. But it's so beautiful just to know those three things. And for me to know them solidly. And, it's not a guessing game anymore. It's like, it's in one sense, it's game over. In Christ, we're already perfected. Colossians 2:10, we're already complete in him. So now we're just walking out the journey. And we can look into Christ and see who we are, perfected in him, and know, hey, that's where I end up. So I can just keep going on the journey, knowing that that's where I'll be. It's where I am and where I'll be.
Yeah. Amen. 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 Yeah. I think that it's the difference of, I think this whole thing of, I was reading the Proverbs. We do a Proverbs a day, and our kids will read the Proverbs in the car in the morning on the way to their grandparents' house. And I had Peter reading this proverb, and you got some wisdom there. And then all of a sudden you hear Solomon say, like, if you treat the poor this way, God's going to be angry with you. Right. And then all of a sudden you keep going along. And if the rich man does this, God's going to. So you go from these moments of wisdom to, hey, rich people, pay attention to the poor, because they are key to the heart of God. Right. And you begin to see these different things, and all of a sudden you read the Proverbs and you begin to see that justice is a real big deal to the Lord, right? And that the righteous are the ones that execute justice. And all of a sudden you realize something: the character trait of the righteous, if you will, they are always looking to mend, to put something that was broken back together, to restore somebody's purpose. Mm-hmm. Like when the righteous look at the poor, they're like, no, that's not the way it ought to be. God did not create them to be without food, to be without a home, and so they don't take advantage. They don't exploit. They want to mend. They want to make it right. So the righteous, just by their nature, they mend. But the unrighteous, the fool, right? Folly, it's selfishness. It's not motivated by love. It only thinks about self. And so it's full of pride and jealousy. And so what does it do? It tears apart, right? And so that's a great way for us to process this year in our activities and our theologies and who we're following on Instagram or whatever else. Our tribes, our family, our rabbis. Are we together tearing apart? Are we contributing to what sin has done to fracture, to destroy, right? Or are we using who we are to mend and to make right, and to say, this isn't the way it ought to be. God did not create you to suffer in this way, and I will use who I am to make it right. And that's who we are. We are the righteous, and there's something inside of us that wants to make things right. So for that reason, we got to make sure that we don't just get so I think in our stream, man, like the revival stream, the problem with revivalism outside of theological biblical context is it turns the entirety of the story into them. It's very millennial. It's very me and my selfie cam. And the entirety of my spiritual experience exists on finding my own peace, my own joy, my own miraculous experience. Yeah, right. Yeah. But I think held within the biblical narrative, looking at the beginning in Eden and then the end, but the Bible ends with Eden, the New Jerusalem coming down and the restoration, of all things. Right. Yeah. All of a sudden we begin to see that my personal salvation, my personal well-being is not what this whole thing is about. It's about me being healed and whole so that I can bring healing and wholeness. And all of a sudden our revival isn't the end of the story. This whole thing is about revival. No. Revival just means something dead coming back to life. Okay. Something religious, becoming awakened. And then it just puts you right back on course. So restoration is what this whole thing is about. The restoration of who we are, the restoration of the earth, the restoration of the church, the bride, etc.
That is so interesting. Right between Christmas and New Year's of 2022, my wife and I got away. Anyway, Father gave me a download, and so this would kind of fit into your death and revival, but he was just showing me 4 things that need to happen for restoration of all things, and he said the first one is we have to restore our understanding of who he is. So there needs to be a revival around that, understanding who God really is, not this mean ogre, but this God who completely loves us.
Wow.
And then secondly, we have to restore the image of him in us. I mean, part of the reason the church is looked at with condemnation and judgment, or as being condemning and judging, is because they believe God is condemning and judging. And so they have that image of him in them, and that's what they reproduce. And then the third one was, after those 2 things are done well, then you can actually go to the third level, which is restoring kingdom community, restoring the kingdom or the community of God's kingdom. But that doesn't happen very well without the first 2 taking place.
Yeah, that's right.
Then,
that's right.
Yeah. And then the fourth one is the restoration of the cosmos, which, I leave that one to him. And if he wants to show me how to do something in the cosmos or in the earth, I'm more than happy to do that. But I see those first 3 really needing to come together. And then as we begin to work together in communities, that we have the capacity to begin to restore, clean up the ocean, clean up the atmosphere, or whatever needs to happen. But we have that ability to begin to do those things. But starts with, let's get the right image of God. And then let's get that, reflected in us, so that we're like him. And then we can start to build community. So yeah, you can't build a good community, close community, without knowing who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you're going to constantly be trying to measure up and improve and impress everybody, and with who you think you are supposed to be. And sometimes that requires stomping on people to look better than everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you just laid out there. And when I think of restoration of the cosmos, this is language that we use in Eden, in that the canvas for creation was chaos. The chaos and void, the tohu vavohu. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Right. Something like that.
Yeah. It literally means it's a nonsensical reality. And so here you have the canvas, the state here is the tohu vavohu, the chaos. Yeah. Who is in the midst of right smack dab in the chaos is Yahweh Elohim, right? So bara, Bereshit, bara, the whole thing. In the chaos is the ruach, is the breath of God. That in the midst of the chaos is Yahweh, and from Yahweh comes the breath of God, and comes, so from cosmos comes the chaos. Sorry, from chaos comes the cosmos. And the reason why I think this is really, really cool is because so many people in the spiritual communities say that chaos is the absence of their deity or God. We state that in the middle of the chaos, Yahweh finds his home. But he doesn't just say this is the way it ought to be. He, in that place of radical chaos and dissonance, he creates. And what does he create? He creates the cosmos, which means order. I think that if we are God-like, this is what I love about what you're saying, seeing who he is, finding him in us, seeing that we are called not to be just godly, but God-like. In that, we should find areas of radical chaos, and radical injustice, radical noise. See, in the spiritualist kind of communities, the only way to find inner peace is to block the chaos.
Yeah.
Remove the negative people from your life, right? But then you look at Jesus, and he was attracted to the worst people, to the most chaotic situations. So Jesus says, when you see me, you see the Father. So where do you find the Father? In the chaos. Where do you find Jesus? In the chaos. What does the Father do? He brings out cosmos. What does Jesus do? He says, blind eyes open.
Yeah.
And they mend, right?
So good. So good. Love it. Well, Darren, I hope you'll be willing to come on again in the future. And I got a feeling that we can really get to rolling and have a really good time at times, and then dive into the deep and really get some good serious stuff going. So
yeah, this was fun. This was a great conversation, man. Let's definitely do it again.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it, and I think our audience has enjoyed it. So everybody, let us know what you think. Give us your questions, and then I just say, have someone take a look at the Facebook posts and so forth, and just know there might be some people in your area. So again, where are you at? You're in Washington State?
Yeah, we're in Seattle, just on the east side of Seattle.
Okay.
And I didn't put it. I mean, I could change it, but if people want more information on Eden, our website is edenmovement.org. Eden.
Okay. I know Karen put something up earlier, but go ahead and put that up. And then Karen, if you got it, go ahead and throw it in there again too, please.
Yeah. And people we've got a new campus that starts this weekend. So we got 2 campuses, which is pretty cool. One's up north near Bellingham. It's the Smoky Point area. And so they'll be meeting every week. And then we're technically in Newcastle, Washington. So yeah, if you're in the area, hit us up. And if you come to one of our services, make sure that you tell me what up and give me a high five.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I might be up there in October. So
for real?
Yeah, conference I'm doing up there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
I gotta get the dates nailed down. I mean, I think they're already nailed down. I just gotta find out what they are.
Oh, dude. Yeah. So we'll connect on that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to.
See each other.
All right. Well, Darren, hang on.
How long your hair is going to be by then?
And
how big your beard's going to be.
Then I can just, be getting toward the end of the year. I could just dye it all white and do a Santa Claus thing.
Yes, look like God.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, hang around for a second. We're going to do our outro, and then I want to talk to you a little bit more on the backside. But hey, everybody, love you. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, give us your comments and your questions. We'd love to get back to them if you didn't get them out to us now. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Mr. Darren Stott. Honor you. Bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for taking time out to listen to Kingdom Talks. You can find out more about Kingdom Talks Media and our mission to unite in faith and grow as mature sons at kingdomtalksmedia.com. Please continue to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, Fringe Radio Network, and many more places. Go to our website to find links to all of our media outlets, as well as fantastic online courses and conferences, including the life-changing interactive course, Ultimate Impact. And last but not least, we ask that you consider partnering with us to fulfill the mission to get these messages to the world. To become a partner, go to the Partnership tab on our website. Thank you, and until next time, live a blessed life and keep carrying us in your heart and sharing us wherever hearts are open.